Some of our intro here. All right, let's begin with some meditation and begin with a deep breath. So, first thing you really need to learn in any meditation practice is to breathe deeply. And to breathe deeply means to let the air come all the way down to your belly. Make sure that you're not breathing up from your chest. So let's take a deep breath and then hold it for a moment and then release. When you breathed out, hold that for a moment. If you like, you can count to 3 or to 5. And then continue deep breathing like that. Now, along with that, if you can chant a mantra, and we're going to do the Om mantra right now. Three sounds, ah, oo, and ma. The ma sound you do with your mouth closed and let it resonate inside your head. And finally, we'll do Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we're on to the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and this is a very crucial moment in the recitation of the in the narration of the Bhagavad Gita, because it starts off with Krishna being questioned by Arjun. Well, actually, it starts off with Arjun saying he doesn't want to fight in this battle that is about to take place. And it's a huge battle with armies from all across the known world at that time gathered on two sides. Like you had the Civil War in America, like you had the World War I and World War II later on. This was the equivalent of that. And when the battle is about to start, Arjun, who is one of the main people, it is their kingdom that was usurped by the other side, taken literally by cheating. He decides he doesn't want to fight in the battle. And so that's when Krishna, who is also a king, but is now acting as his chariot driver, Krishna, who is so far been Arjun's friend, and Arjun's just known of him as a dear friend and relative as well. Krishna begins to reveal to Arjun who he really is and what this battle is all about. And one of the things he reveals is that this battle is about dharma. Dharma means the establishing of civilization, a civilized society on this earth. And that what has happened is that the earth has become filled with uncivilized people, evil people. Just like we had Hitler. And when he was here, he was causing great problems for everybody. I mean, he was torturing, killing, invading, doing every heinous, unimaginable thing possible. And so it became imperative for the Allied forces to take him out. Nobody likes to get into war, and but when it is imperative, it is imperative. And that was the situation we see ourselves in now. So Krishna has been talking to Arjun about not only about the battle, but also about life, about the soul, about who we are and why we're here and how we need to work and what we need to do and what is the purpose of life and lots of different things, including the different yoga systems and meditation and all of that. And at some point, he starts to, Arjun wants to know who he is. How come he knows all this stuff? And so he asks some very pointed questions. You say that you are, because Krishna starts telling him that he is the origin of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from him. So Arjun literally challenges him now in the 11th chapter. And that's what we've been reading. So just to go back 2 or 3 verses, and then we'll come to the main part where we are right now. Arjun says to Krishna, he says, I see as many waves of rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouths. So Krishna is showing him this gigantic form that goes from the earth to the sky, like huge. Like think of Empire State huge, or think of Mount Everest huge, right? Something that is going all the way from the earth all the way up to the clouds. And yeah, you may say this is fantastic and improbable and impossible, but that's the point Krishna is making, is that he is, in fact, the origin of everything. He is not like some guru or other person claiming to be God. He is proving to Arjun that that indeed is who he is. And so then he's showing Arjun the outcome of the battle. And that's why Arjun is saying, I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. So this is chapter 11, text number 29, for those of you that are following along. Then he says, O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides, your flaming mouths, covering all the universe with your effulgence. You are manifest with terrible scorching rays. O Lord of Lords, O fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you. I want to know what your mission is. And it's this point then Krishna begins to speak. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Kala Asmi Lokakshya Krit Pravriddho. So he says, Time I am, destroyer of the worlds, and I have come to engage all people, with the exception of you, the Pandavas. All the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. So he already knows the outcome of the battle. And he says that he is time, Kala. Time is the one thing none of us can conquer over, right? One who has conquered over time has won the battle of life. If Krishna is Kala, if Krishna is time, then how do you conquer time? So for that, I have a question for all of you. Have you ever experienced a moment of timelessness? Have you ever experienced a moment where time seemed to stop? It didn't actually stop, but it seemed like. And when did that happen? Anyone care to share? When did it happen that you lost track of time and were completely like you 2 hours later, 3 hours later, you said, oh my God. So when you're in the moment, right? Is that right? When you're in the moment. Uh-huh. Correct. Exactly. If you are completely immersed in the moment, you will lose track of time, whether you're listening to music or you're working or you're with a partner who you're in love with and you're just being there, or you're on the beach and just relaxing with nature. We've all been in these moments. And does anybody not know what I'm talking about? Or this experience of timelessness is the experience of the divine. It is the experience of God. We've all had it. So anyone who says they haven't experienced God isn't really joining the dots. When I say join the dots, I mean we are having such moments in our lives. And we can keep having them provided we learn the art of transcending time. And the way you transcend time is you become completely focused in the moment on whatever it is you're doing. And if you focus to that degree, then you will transcend time. Krishna says he is time. He is this world, right? If you want to transcend the time, transcend time, transcend the world, go beyond the influence of this world, that is where you meet Krishna. That timeless moment, that eternity, that moment of eternity that you've experienced, that moment. And you'll notice it comes with certain other feelings. It comes with a moment of, with a feeling of lightness. It comes with a feeling of almost joy. Not the kind of joy you get from something happening in your life that you want, but a different kind of joy. It's an elation of sorts. So that experience is when you are meeting with God. Time I am, destroyer of the world. So the world now has vanished. In that experience, in that moment, the world has vanished. Everything has vanished. Your problems have vanished. Everything else is gone. Time I am, destroyer of the worlds. When you are with Him, when you are in meditation, when you are in the moment, when you are lost in thought of the beloved, of God particularly, you will come to that place where time ceases. In that moment, it will not matter whether you live or you die. It will not matter what happens in that moment, because in that moment you have transcended time and you have transcended this world. But here Krishna is talking about time destroys everything. There's a different meaning to this. Time destroys, like, we come into this world and none of us wants to get old. None of us wants to go through all the difficulties that life brings our way, right? None of us wants to die. And yet that is inevitable. There is no avoiding it. So it's really important to understand that time stops. There was a poem or a saying, time and tide stop for no man, right? Does anyone remember who that's from? Was it Shakespeare or I don't know? No, time in a bottle, but that's also not Cat Stevens. That's also not Cat Stevens. Okay, so uh, he continues here. I have come to engage all people. So he is here only comes. Krishna says earlier, I come millennium after millennium, not all the time. Over many, many thousands of years, he comes once. And during that time, he shows different facets of himself. A great part of what we learn about Krishna is from his childhood, where he shows his true nature: playful, fun loving, mischievous, always protecting his loved ones. And then there is situations like this where he takes on as a king and he is now performing the duties required to bring peace and harmony in the world again. So then he says to Arjun, therefore, get up, prepare to fight and win glory. See, because he says, with the exception of your Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. He says, I want you to have the glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you can now be an instrument of the fight. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, do not be disturbed. Simply fight, and you will vanquish your enemies in battle. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, O king, after hearing these words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trembling Arjun offered obeisance with folded hands again and again. He fearfully spoke to Krishna in a faltering voice as followed. Arjun said, O master of the senses. We are reading now on 1137. O master of the senses, The world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attracted to you, attached to you, sorry. Although the perfected beings offer their respectful homage, those who are evil and demonic are afraid and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done. O Great One, greater than even Brahma, you are the original creator. This is text number 37. Adi Karte, the supreme creator, the original doer. Adi Karte. Why then should they not offer their respectful obeisances to you? O limitless one, God of gods, refuge of the universe, you are the invincible source, the cause of all causes, transcendental to this material creation. He refers to Krishna here as Jagat Nivas, meaning the refuge of the universe. Jagat Nivas, or the home of the universe, like the resting place, the place from where the whole universe rests on him. Aksharam, imperishable. Sat Asat, cause and effect. Tat Param, transcendental. So he says, you are the transcendental cause and the effect of this world. You are the invincible source, the cause of all causes, transcendental to this material manifestation. It's important, I'm going over some of the original words in the Sanskrit here so you understand that they're not just, I think if you have a knowledge of Sanskrit or Hindi even, you'll know that this is in fact what he's saying, that it's not something made up. Here he says, Tvam Adi Devaha. You are the original of all devas or gods. That is the source of all gods. There is no god above Krishna. So while Hinduism talks about a polytheistic religion in which there are many gods, it also simultaneously talks about a monotheistic religion in which there is only one god. It also simultaneously talks about a pantheistic religion in which God is in everything. And it simultaneously talks about a God who is not a being, but an energy and a person. It gives you all the choices. You can choose to understand God as you wish. This is not imposed upon you, but rather all possible choices are given to you. And if you wish to see God as non-existent, all right, try that out too for size and see what you think, right? But I'll tell you this, everybody has a God that they worship. I challenge any atheist on this. Everybody has a God that they worship. For most people in this world, particularly the ones who do not believe in any kind of God, the God that they worship sits right here. It's the one between their ears, their mind. They all worship this. Why do I say they worship it? Because they listen to it blindly. They obey it implicitly. They believe everything it says. It is their scripture. It is their God in every way possible. In fact, the person who wants to know God has to stop believing in the God of the mind to be able to hear the God of the heart. What I mean by that is that God is present in everyone's heart and is present with you right now, right here. And you can have the experience of God simply by quieting your mind. So you either will believe in the God of the mind or you will find the God of the heart. Krishna says, I am seated in everyone's heart. From me alone comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So God is present with all of us. It is not that we are far away. You say, well, how is this possible? 7.5 billion people on this planet, and you say God is with everyone. Of course. Just now, you and I are connected. How are we connected? You're somewhere far away. I don't know. You could be in another part of the world. Some of you are, and some of you are right here in San Diego. But wherever you are, through this computer thing or phone thing, we are connected. Similarly, Krishna has set it up to be present with each of us. Now, it doesn't mean that he's active with each of us. He is dormant, just as your soul is dormant, right? But when you call on him, then he's there. Is he there to fix your problems? No, God is not your Santa Claus. He's not there to fix your problems. He's there to listen to you, to hear you, and be there for you in that moment when you're ready to reach out and connect, right? You're connected to many people on Facebook and Instagram and all these places, but you're not necessarily there to do whatever it is that they want you to do. See, the fact of the matter is, all of us think that we are gods. Why do I say this? Think about it. You get out when it's raining and you say, my God, why is it raining? Yeah, it should stop raining. When will it stop raining? I want this thing to stop. You find too much traffic on the road and you want that traffic to go away. And you find it too hot and you complain about the weather or the line in front of you of people waiting at the grocery store. You want things to be your way. You want to control the world around you. Unfortunately, you're not able to. If you do manage to, let's say you start a business and now you're able to control people in that business, you feel a sense of great pride. You have achieved something and people look up to you. Perhaps if you accumulate lots of wealth along with it, you look up to you even further. But the whole thing is to control. And think about it like this. We try to control the temperature in our house. We try to control everything. Everything. We're trying to control everything. In fact, if we're not able to control things, we become very upset. If somebody talks to you in a way that you don't want, we're upset. If somebody leaves us when we don't want them to leave, we're upset. What does it mean? It means that we want them to do as we think they should do and not as we don't think they should do. In other words, we're trying to control the world, people, and everything around us. Our whole life is spent in this. We want to control the world by having more money, more things, buy whatever we want. All of these are for our luxury, for our comfort. Why? Why is this so important? Why are we not satisfied with what we have? Because in reality, none of it is ours. We're going to leave it all behind. So why are we struggling? You see, we want to prove to others that we are worthy and we are good enough. It's much more than that. We want to prove to them that we are something, when in fact we are nothing. The ego wants to be substantial. It wants to make a point. It wants to leave a mark. It wants to have a legacy. It wants to be recognized. We're all trying to be God. But when you understand that, and so therefore we pay homage to this mind of ours, hoping that it will get us there. And it doesn't. It betrays us. It lets us down. Sooner than later, it lets us down, as does the body. When we go beyond the mind and we understand that there is something more, something that created the universe, something that created these bodies, something that created this, everything we see around us, then we begin to look for God. And then again, there's religion. And that comes in the way because it wants you to believe things. But believing never brings you to God. Believing may be a good starting point. I tell you, you can go from point A to point B and the direction is that way. Okay. But you've got to walk. You've got to go that journey. And that walking here is actually living the teachings that are there. And that has nothing to do with the religion. It has nothing to do with the book. It's actually taking what is being taught and starting to apply it. Right? And it is then that you begin to feel this God of the mind becomes quiet and the God within the heart awakens. You begin to feel the presence of God all around you, in the people around you, and within yourself. It is then that God becomes no longer a theory or a belief, but rather an experience, a reality, a fact. Right? So this is where we are right now with Arjun. If you have any questions about what I said so far, please ask. Yeah. Mm, yeah. I am referring to the ego. You're absolutely right. I am referring to the ego. It is the ego that wants to be God in whatever degree it can understand that. Essentially, it comes down to control. And if there is one thing that is required in being able to defeat the ego, it is to defeat its attempt to control the world. Let me explain to you what I mean. If, for example, someone abuses you, okay, says something mean or nasty or horrible about you, it is your ego that will get hurt, right? Why? Because they should not have done that, right? If somebody rips you off, they should not have done that. And therefore, now the ego is very hurt and very upset. But that is what is upset. If you simply take the world as it shows up, whether the weather is hot or whether the weather is cold, whether there is a traffic or whether there is no traffic, whether somebody said something good to you or whether someone said something bad to you, whether someone agreed with you or disagreed, the point is that I, it's horrible right now what's happening. I came across this thing on some of my friends, so-called friends on Facebook, where they're now telling people, if you agree with these new mandates that have come out, and I don't want to discuss the topic, I just want to get the principle out of it. You agree with these new mandates that are out regarding the vaccine, then I no longer wish to be your friend. Please unfriend me. And I was just thinking, I never became your friend because of your opinions. I became friends with you because you were a good human being, and I wanted to know a good human being. Now, suddenly, you've become, from a human being, you've become an opinion. And now, if somebody doesn't agree with that opinion, you suddenly don't want to be around that person. Why? Are you so scared of hearing different viewpoints? Are you so perturbed and bothered by the fact that somebody can have a different view than you? I've always had different views than most people I know. I've always, almost always, whether it was spiritual people or whether it was religious people or it was anybody, I've always had different views. I like to find what is my understanding, my truth with my experience within this. And I encourage you to do the same. So this idea that we should all think the same or else I don't want to be part of your friend circle is very detrimental to us. You're taking away, in the name of so-called, you're upset that there shouldn't be mandates, and you're therefore thinking that this is about freedom. But in fact, you're taking away people's freedom to be able to think for themselves and express their feelings in whatever way they want. So again, I don't want to go into that topic of vaccines and mandates, but rather the idea of how we're trying to play God. Right? I only want the people who will believe in me. This is what religions did. Only the people that believe in this religion, you should marry that person, you should be around that person, or you should associate with such people. The people who don't believe in your God, you should reject them, you should treat them as infidels or whatever else, or even kill them or destroy them. It depends on how far you want to take it, but that's how people go. Right? The ego has no reality. The ego is entirely a persona that was created from the time you were born. Who you think you are, right, is a construct. It was constructed. From the time you were born, you were told you were a boy or a girl, and then you were told you're good or you're bad. Then you had your social stuff, from the society that you learned, from the religion, from the customs, the food, the rituals, Christmas or Diwali or whatever else, whatever you grew up with, right? That became the construct. of how you should dress and what how you should talk and what is the etiquette and how you should eat your food and all that kind of stuff. All of that became the construct. But what is that which is constructed can also be destroyed. So once you start meeting setbacks in your life and you have problems, once you start having some kind of things that come and mess you up, let's say somebody insults you, fires you from a job, or something, problems start to occur, you start to now doubt yourself. That construct gets shaken, right? If the construct is validated, then you think, oh, I'm great. If the construct is broken, then you start to doubt yourself. Then self-doubt comes in, then you don't achieve as much, then you don't get anywhere in life, and you're ultimately a mess, right? So the ego is unreliable, and though it tries to help you, it cannot. All the time, constant confirmation, constant validation. That's right. Be- because it is fragile, because it does not have any substance of its own. It's a virtual creation, like a virtual reality, and it thrives on people acknowledging you. If the people say you're good, you're doing a good job, what a wonderful thing you've done, then the ego is like, all right, I'm on, I'm great, I'm wonderful, right? And if they don't, and they say you're not, they don't, or they don't say anything, well, then suddenly it starts to take a hit and you start getting demotivated and uninspired and all of that. Our whole world is designed around the ego. We are all playthings, puppets in the hands of the ego. Yes, but the difference is this: you must be clear. Do I have an ego or does the ego have me? Am I dancing to the tune of my ego, or is my ego going to be there to serve me for my higher goals? That is the basic. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That and yeah, you can be the best, the best version of yourself. Why do you want to be the best version of yourself? Just be yourself. Find your real self, because your real self is really the best version of yourself. Your real self, your soul, is the best version of yourself. You don't have to become anything. You don't, yeah. So, anyways, today's topic is really more about understanding God rather than understanding ourselves, but I'll definitely love to pursue this further at other times. All right? Uh, let's continue here, because here's the thing, that in understanding the real self, you begin to understand God. In understanding God, you begin to understand the real self. You begin to learn how to discern it from the ego. Okay? Exactly. It is kryptonite. In fact, to understand God, you do need to dissolve the ego. That is why the path to God is the path of surrender. It is the path of annihilation of the ego. And step by step, uh-huh. I don't know about that. I've seen quite the opposite. So no comment here. I would have to step into the gray area of fault finding, which I choose. Right. All right. So let's come back here. We're trying to understand the nature of God, and we shall definitely. I love the questions you're asking, but let's do it at a different time. Yeah. Let's pursue this further. So Arjun is discovering who Krishna is, and he is now starting to express that to him. Right, the first 10 chapters, well, at least the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, we were discussing about the mind, the ego, all of that. From chapter 7 onwards, he started talking more, Krishna started talking more and more about himself. Now Arjun is realizing who Krishna is, and he's sharing his realizations. So he says here, Tvam Adi Devaha, which means you are the original Deva, you are the great, the God of all gods. Purusha Purana. So now many people feel that God is formless, and this word is used in the Advaita school of Vedanta, where they refer to God as being formless, or having nirgun, which means no qualities, having without any qualities. But here he is saying, Arjun is saying to Krishna as he begins to understand him, he calls him Purusha Purana. Purusha means the person, and Purana means the oldest person, the original person. You are, he says to Krishna, the oldest person, the original Deva. So many Devas are known: Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Krishna, he says, you are the original Deva. If you come across anything in Hinduism, you'll come across the names of many gods and goddesses. Krishna is being referred to here by Arjun as the Adi Deva. This is very significant, very important. Then he says, Tvam asya vishvasya. Vishvasya, Vishwa. Vishwa refers to the universe. Tvam asya vishvasya. That means that the universe has come from you. You are the original person, the only sanctuary of this manifested cosmic world. You know everything. Vetasi, Vedyam. Right? Everything that is knowable is known to you. You are above the material modes, right? This whole cosmic manifestation is pervaded by you. So, how does God pervade the entire universe? And I have spoken of this before, so I'm going to put the question to all of you. How does God pervade the universe? If I wanted to meet God tomorrow, even this moment, how could I meet God right now? Okay, so how could I meet God right now? If God is everything, tell me how I could meet God right now. Okay, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes, you're absolutely been paying attention. Wonderful, thank you. Also, whether by quieting the mind and tuning in to what lies within you, right here you will feel the presence of God, or in anything that you are in touch with, a glass of water, some fruit that you're trying to eat, anything natural, anything natural. Tune into that and you will experience God. Tune into your own body or the body of another, you will experience God. Tune into anything natural, because within all that has been created, God is present as energy. Now, how will you experience that energy? You will experience that energy in its true form as peace, Sat Chit Ananda. You will experience it in the form of blissfulness. You will experience it as as something that is eternal, timeless. Right? Three words are used in the Vedas to describe God: Sat, that means that it is eternal; Chit, that it is conscious; and Ananda, it's blissful. Sat Chit Ananda. And so therefore when you tune into something, and you experience that timelessness in nature, right, or in being with another person who you resonate with, timelessness. Similarly, you'll experience a sense of consciousness, that this thing is alive, is vibrant with energy, right? Even if it's a fruit you're eating. And Ananda, you will feel blissful at the taste, at the smell, at the fragrance of a flower or a leaf. All of nature is vibrant, is throbbing with life. Why? How? Because it's that energy that is moving through it. It is God that is permeating it. So you can have a direct experience of God by all of creation, by going within yourself, and ultimately, if you want to go one step further, then trying to understand, because Krishna says he is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. He is the form of eternality, bliss, and knowledge. That form is revealed rarely, and so that is not the easiest place that you will find, you will be able to see and witness right away. That comes in time. But you can start where you are. And gradually keep your mind open to the possibility that you can have a loving relationship with God, that you can call on Him, that He can be there and will be there, right? To communicate with. Ask questions and you can write. He will talk to you. He will speak to you. He will guide you. He will be your friend and your well-wisher. That's His promise. Take Him up on it. Don't just believe, take Him up on it. Then Arjun goes on to say, Vayur Yamo Agnir Varuna. So he says, you are air, fire, water. These are the elements, right? The five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. He says, you, he's referring to Krishna here, Vayur Yamo Agnir Varuna San Shashankaha Prajapati Stvam. So he says, you are air, fire, water, and you are the moon. You are the supreme controller and the grandfather. Thus I offer my respectful obeisance unto you 1,000 times, again and yet again. There are so many people who do not want to accept that God can be a person. It is sad because the fact that God can be a person allows you to have a way to relate. How do you love someone who you cannot see, who does not have a form? How can you have a relationship? How can you have any kind of connection with something that is ethereal? See, if God was only the energy of the universe, you couldn't have a relationship and a connection with that. You could not. What would you relate to? What would you say? Oh, flowers, or air, or water. I connect with you. I relate to you. I want to have a relationship with you. We are beings who naturally seek relationship, is it not? Everything we seek comes from our original nature. Let me clarify this. Everything we seek comes from our original nature. So what do we seek in this world? We seek love, right? Every child seeks love right from the moment they're born. It has nothing to do with DNA. It has to do with the DNA of the soul. We all seek love. Why? It doesn't matter what country or what religion you're born in, doesn't matter what gender you are, we seek love. Even dogs and cats seek love. Why? Because that is the DNA of the soul. The soul is by nature loving. Why is the soul by nature loving? Because God is by nature love. Now, for love to exist, there needs to be two, the lover and the beloved. So therefore God appears as a being so that the expression of love can happen. We also seek happiness. Why? Because that again is the nature of the soul. That is the DNA of the soul. Why do we seek peace and harmony? That is the nature of the soul. That is the nature of God, right? Why do we seek to live forever? Because that is who we are. We are forever beings. We are eternal beings. Why do we seek? See, you can keep on going with this now. Why do we seek what? Knowledge. Once again, Krishna is all-knowing, right? So because we are sparks of that divine, we also are of that nature. We also seek the same things. And ultimately, we are seeking ourselves, and through ourselves, we are seeking God. Any questions? Please feel free to ask. Arjun continues, obeisances from the front, from behind, and from all sides. He's offering his respects. From all sides, from the front, from behind, and from all sides. O unbounded power, you are the master of limitless might. You are all pervading, and thus you are everything. Nama Purushstad Atha Arjun is having a moment. He's having a moment of complete ecstasy and rapture in realizing that his friend Krishna was, in fact, all along the personification of God, who was present in front of him all this time, and he had no clue. Krishna did not want people to think of him as God. He walked around as if he was just an ordinary guy, yeah, and he wanted to be just loved for who he is. That's how he went about it. He didn't want to be known for. You've seen sometimes very rich people, right? Some of them, especially if they've got old, the people who've got new money often want to show off and like act rich because they just got money. But those who have grown up with money, those who have what's called old money, they don't like to show off. They'll underplay themselves. They will dress very casual. They will dress maybe even in torn jeans and all kinds of stuff just to kind of underplay their riches. They won't go around carrying the fancy, designer things and so on, because they don't want anyone to know that they're rich. Krishna's like that. He wasn't interested in letting people know that he's God. He said, "No, I want to have a relationship with you. I want to get to know you, and I want you to know me as I am." Right? Without the show of glory that he put on the whole act there. He showed Arjun who he really is, but that's only after a long time. He didn't want to do that in the beginning. Mm. We are. Go back. What did you say? We are what? Yes, you are God in as much as my finger, my nail, is me. Okay, as much as a drop of water from the ocean is the ocean, to that degree, yes, you are God, but only to that degree. You are a tiny, infinitesimal particle of God. You have the qualities of God in you. And this is true. That is why you seek the things you seek, right? That is why you have a certain nature, because in fact you have the qualities of God in you. But now, activating them is the key. And you cannot call yourself as God because you are not the Purna, the complete God. You are the tiny part of God. You are like one hair on my skin would be one of me in comparison to God. That I am that which I've been talking about. You are that soul. That is who you are. You're not the mind, you're not the ego, you're not the body, right? Na iti, na iti, na iti. You are none of these things. You are that which has a body, that which has a mind, that which has thoughts, but you are not the thoughts. That which is experiencing the story of this life, but is not the story. Your body is Krishna in as much as the hair on my body is me. In that sense, yes. But the hair on me, when you want to have a relationship with me, right? You don't go to the hair on my hand, you come to me, the person, and you relate to me, right? So I hope that makes some sense. But you're right, and it's and it's a small portion of the truth. Yes. No, I say you are a part of Krishna, not Krishna is a part of you. You are a soul, a tiny, infinitesimal particle of the divine, of God, of Krishna, right? And keep in mind that Krishna is not a sectarian God. It is not the name of my God, and somebody else's God is Allah, and somebody else's God is Christ. No, no. We're all talking about the same God. We may have different names for God, but we're all talking about the same God. How we understand God is perhaps the key determining factor about what you relate to the most and what you don't. Yes, absolutely. No, no, no. No, no, that's 100% true. 100% true. If you want to understand God, and your statement is absolutely correct. If I look, 10 people could come to me and tell me about the nature of God, right? How do I know which one to believe? The easiest and simplest way to know the nature of God is study yourself. Study what this particle of life is, study what this particle of God is, and you will know something about the nature of God. For example, if I tasted a drop of water from the ocean and I noticed that drop of water is salty and wet, now I know two things about the ocean. The ocean water is salty and the ocean water is wet, right? Then, of course, if I go to the ocean, I begin to understand the magnificence of the enormity of the ocean and the depth of the ocean and so many creatures that live within it. But from the drop of water, if you came to me and said to me, or somebody came to me and said to me, that ocean water is sweet, like sugar, like ice cream, I'm like, what are you talking about? I've tasted ocean water. I know what it's like, right? So if you came to me and said to me that God is judgmental or punishes people or sends them to hell, I would absolutely disagree with you because my experience of God, the God within me, the particle of God within me, has been very much the opposite. So it's not a question of believing someone. That's why I say belief. Anyone can lead you to believe anything. Experience this and you will know something about God. Then go with whatever links up to that, right? That takes you everything that is congruous in alignment with that which you experience within you. That is the place, that is what you want to pursue and get to know more about. That makes sense? Good. So then Arjun goes further. He's called Krishna the air, the moon, the sun, this, all kinds of things, right? And now comes a very tender moment. Sakheti matva prasabham yat uktam. He says, thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you as O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories. He referred to him as his friend all this time, not knowing. Krishna wanted it that way. He didn't want Arjun to know, right? Please forgive me whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed and lay on the same bed or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all these offenses. You can see here that Krishna wants a real relationship with us, wants for us to be as Arjun is with him, right? Not to be. This is the difference between Krishna and all other aspects of God. This is not God who sits on a throne and wants you to come there and worship him. But this is God who wants to sit on the same bed with you, to come and eat with you, to hold your hand and to hug you, to laugh with you, to joke with you, to, you know, talk about everything with you, who wants to be part of your life. So, this is what you see from Arjun here, the intimacy. And that is what makes Krishna stand apart from all other teachings about God, is intimacy. One word, intimacy. Everybody talks about to love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. This is there in the Bible. But how do you love someone if you don't know anything about them? Here with Krishna, when you read his stories, you begin to understand who he is, what he does, what he looks like, what his qualities are, what his activities are, and so on. You also learn about what a relationship with him looks like. And so here you hear Arjun talking about his relationship with Krishna and how intimate it is. And that same invitation is there for all of us to have an intimate relationship with Krishna. No, he is God. God has a form. We would like to think of that as a personification of. Look, it's a question of, did the person God give rise to this universe? Or some would like to say, no, the universe gave rise to the person God. The energy gave rise to the person, and others would say, no, the person gave rise to the energy. It's a chicken and egg story. Yes, so there are three aspects. To really clarify your question here, there are three ways you understand God. You understand God as energy, right? God is present in every atom of the creation, and therefore you understand whenever you experience the creation, you also experience God. God is present in every one. So when you meditate and you go within, you experience God within you. And finally, so this was the first was Brahman, God is present in everything. Paramatma, God is present in everyone. And finally, Bhagavan, the presence of God as a being separate from the entire creation, someone with whom you can have a relationship with. So this is not a personification of God, but these things exist simultaneously. You say, did the energy of God give rise to this personification or being? No, it's not that one gave rise to the other. They've existed simultaneously. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Yes, that's where it goes beyond our thinking, right? But which comes first, the sun or the sun rays? Or do they exist simultaneously? Did the sun ever exist without the sun rays? Probably not. We don't know, but probably not. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, right in the beginning, never was there a time when I did not exist. But he also goes on to say, nor you, nor all of these kings assembled here, and never will there be a time when we shall cease to be. So all of us are eternal. The energy is eternal, the personification of God is eternal, and the being, the presence of God within you is eternal. Right? Now it's a question of how do you wish to relate to God? Do you wish to relate to an impersonal God? Do you wish to relate to a God who you find within? Or do you wish to relate to a God as a being? Or to all three? My invitation to you is to experience God in all his and her facets. Don't limit yourself. All right, last little bit here. So Arjun is talking about his friendship with Krishna and asking, please forgive me because I've been too intimate. I've been too, uh, you know, I never knew. I didn't. There was. This is the one place you will find where God is worshipped without awe and reverence. And when awe and reverence comes, He likes to take it away. He doesn't want you to have that awe and reverence relationship. That God is great and we are small. Right? Muslims say Allahu Akbar or God is great. Same with the Christians. The same with the Jews. God is great. But here, and it's the same with the Hindus as well. They worship God as great. They put him on a temple in an altar and worship him. But here is the one and only place with Krishna where you find none of that. He's not interested in that. And so while he's showing Arjun who he is, and Arjun is now feeling great remorse, oh my God, what have I been doing all this time? I've been taking you for granted. He will take Arjun right back into that place of forgetting about all this stuff and coming back to the place of intimacy. But Arjun continues here. Or Pitasi lokasya characharasya. He says, you are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation, the worshipable chief, the spiritual master, the guru. No one is equal to you, nor can anyone be one with you. Within the three worlds, you are immeasurable. See, the fact of the matter is, yes, you are part of him, but you are not immeasurable. You cannot say that no one is equal. No one is equal to me, nor can you say that anyone can be one. These things that Arjun is saying, he's not saying something that is applicable to me and you and him. He's saying something that is applicable to a being that is far greater than all of us. Therefore he says, you are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation. Pitashi lokasya characharasya. Pita means father. Tvam asya pujyascha gurur gariyam. You are the guru of the universe, the teacher, the spiritual master of the universe. I understand this can be hard for you to accept or know or understand if this is unfamiliar, and yet keep an open mind. You are the Supreme Lord to be worshipped by every living being. Thus I fall down to offer you my respects and ask your mercy. Please tolerate the wrongs that I may have done to you and bear with me as a father with his son, or a friend with his friend, or a lover with his beloved. I don't know if you can feel the humility of Arjun as he realizes that he's been dealing with the Supreme Godhead all this time and had no clue. He's so like, oh my God, what the hell have I been doing? Right? He says, as a father tolerates the impudence of his son, or a husband the familiarity of his wife, please tolerate the wrongs that I have done. Oh, I've gone too far. Sorry. Hmm. That's right. This is not symbolic of something, right? Um, the stories of Krishna were written by great sages and saintly people who wrote enormous philosophies. In those philosophies, they describe these as history. They refer to the entire Mahabharata as history. The location of this battle actually exists in India in a place called Kurukshetra. It is still there uh, till today. The place where Krishna's palaces were in Dwarka have been found. There was an island where he had all his palaces. That island has been discovered now. The place where he was born, Vrindavan, exists today, and you can go and see the places where his different pastimes took place. All of that has historical significance. So, and the writings that are there from that period speak of this as history, Purana. Puranas mean histories. Now, the British, when they came along to India, they convinced everybody that these were mythology. And so most Indians began to believe that, oh, just like the Western people did, that this was some kind of myth. No. And it's conceivable for the scientific and logical mind that people might think that. And yet, every scripture of the world has talked about God as a being. Every one of them has talked about a God who loves us and who we can have a loving relationship with. Here, it is detailed. It is blown, like given to you in full measure, shown to you exactly what that looks like. And it is 3,000 years before all the other um, religions of the world came into being. So take it or leave it, that's fine. No one asked anyone to believe anything. But consider the possibility. That is as far as I would like to put it to you. Consider the possibility that God is a being, and what would that be like? What kind of relationship would you have? Right? Choose your relationship, and you can relate to God in that way. Would you like to be a friend of God? Would you like to be a lover? Would you like to be, what would you like to have? What kind of relationship? All right, I will leave it at that. I wish you all a wonderful night, and I look forward to seeing you next week. In that time, feel free to contemplate the things we've read, and if you have any further questions, please think about them, and I'd love to be able to answer anything that you have on your mind. Have a blessed time. Hare Krishna. You're welcome. Thanks, Swati. Yay. Bye. Good night. Charlene, are you wanting to stay on? Are you there, Charlene? We're starting a new meetup in about 5 minutes.